Welcome to Fear the Fallen's weekly highlights. I'm Arctic Blast, and this week I'm joined by...
Deadborn 1. What's up, guys?
And we start this week with Watcher 6, 1945, in his KV-1S on steps, and he just goes to town on this one.
Kind of derps that shot here, but otherwise he's just not taking anything from anybody. Any shot he can get at, he'll take it.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
And going invisible doesn't even save you.
Which, this is a prime example of the huge flexibility of this tank, and how just as long as you can get that reload at the right time, you can go ham on basically anything at this tier.
Ready to fire. Enemy armor.
And I like how he makes use of that auto tracking for the most part. I mean, he's close enough that he's not going to miss with that shell if he's auto tracking. And it sort of just helps him, especially on a map like this where it's a little bit bouncy, just to be able to hold that focus.
Yeah, and he popped that shot earlier right through the cheek of that AT-2.
They're knocked out.
Yeah, he ends up, as you can see, he gets 9 kills. He gets a steel wall. He gets an ace tanker. I mean, he did phenomenal. This time we have Fire Blaster and a KV-2 on Arctic region.
Let's find another target.
KV-2 absolutely loves the sides of enemy tanks, much to that Churchill's displeasure.
Yeah, and I like how he has the courtesy here to, I mean, he zooms in, he lines up his shot, but then he zooms out, most likely to make sure that no small tank is cut in front of him.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, especially with the KV-2 with that HE shell. You hit anybody on your team accidentally, you're going to do huge damage, and you're not going to have any chance of it bouncing off and doing nothing. And shots like this, you just can't make in a KV-2, but he just pulls it off.
Yeah, I mean, KV-2 sniping, what, that's not supposed to happen.
Target acquired. Critical hit.
And like this, he's like, oh, not much time, must ram. And someone shoots him in between. He's like, 10 health, oh, I can finish that off, and nope, only 2, someone else had to shoot it. But that's okay, he still came away with a high caliber and an ace tanker, so. Next up, Free Penguins in a T-69 on Cliff.
Yeah,
And I mean, yeah, this tank can be good, especially with Penguins. I mean, as you watch this, I mean, he makes excellent use of his drum, and he never forgets how many rounds he has left.
That's definitely a very key thing, especially with these autoloaders, is for the tankers who haven't really got a lot of experience in the game yet, but still have a good understanding, is they still have the instinct of pop out, take a shot, pop back. With the autoloader, you got to pop out, take 3 or 4 shots, then get out of there before the enemy reloads.
Penetration. Enemy armor is damaged. Gotcha.
Yeah,
So
and then
can't get scared off by that single shot returned on you to get it done.
yeah, and you got to remember, Harry's previous to that kill, he only shot 3 of his 4, so he backed up. He's like, okay, I'm going to need more than 1 shot to finish off the next tank, and so he just dropped his drum and did a manual reload, as he just did right there too. Because if you're not going to immediately use all those rounds to finish off a tank, you need to enter the next engagement with a full drum. And for his effort, he got a Top Gun and a second class. Here we have Herbie 1994 and a T1 Cunninghame. He just, decided to blow off some steam and come back and do a Tier 1 match and, basically school all these noobs onto the capabilities of their tank.
And definitely at this tier, you don't have anyone that really knows to keep the large part of your hull hidden behind rocks and behind cover and whatever you can get at. So unfortunately for these players, with the experience that he has, they aren't a challenge to him in the slightest.
Yeah, he gets a little cocky here. Almost gets himself wasted. But, you know, he backed up just enough to ricochet a couple of shots and have a few completely miss so that he had enough life to continue terrorizing everybody that's left. Easily finishes that one off that he left from before. And now it's just a matter of hunting down these last 2 tanks. And he spots the last one here because someone else just finished off one of the other ones. Apparently he's AFK, but whatever, you still take him when you can, and he gets a top gun and an ace tanker. Here we are with some skirmish action. It's Fear the Fallen versus Destroyers, as seen from as seen from Jarhead 8 in his KV-1S. Here they are playing on Inksk. As you can see from the movements here, they decide they're going to send almost everybody to the 9-0 line with the scouts up with Fire Blaster there and his scout looking for where the enemies are. He spots the Type 64, but they still haven't seen everybody else, and then the Cromwell appears. They decided that most likely that this was going to be the approach the enemy was going to use because they saw that the enemy had no heavies. And generally, if you have no heavies, you don't really want to engage at the city there on Inksk.
And this is definitely like a good showing, as you'll pay attention here, as watch where the other allied tanks go. They go in great positions to help cover each other and make it so that, well, one tank will absorb a shot, another 2 can pop out and plant one in an enemy tank.
Yeah, and then Fire Blaster, he spends most of this battle, as you can see, he's just looking around, making sure no one's coming up and flanking, because they've really only spotted 4 tanks at this time, and now they're up to have spotted the 5th, the 6th. It's at this point that they've been able to confirm that everybody, other than that Type 64, is down to the east of the railroad tracks. And so Fire Blaster is, taking the time now to make sure that Type 64 isn't flanking around behind his guys, while the rest of the team, sits here and finishes off the guys that, the main force of the enemies. And the one advantage they have here is because they were able to spot the enemy and see him coming down this way, they have a hit point advantage that, negates the, normally that hit point advantage would be negated from the flank attacks, but they deny the enemy the ability to have that flank attack.
And that's truly a tactical thing you have to think of as a clan and as a team in general. And in random matches, you can't really do it as much, but where you can do it, it's definitely viable, an option to really make the battle yours and how your tanks need to fight. Where these guys, they really need to do a head-on brawl in order to win. They couldn't do the whole mobility and getting into a turning fight.
Yeah, and it's a shame Fire Blaster ended up going down to that Type 64, but the Type 64 has some pretty decent angling on it, and 2 light tanks, trying to brawl it out at close quarters isn't exactly the easiest thing to do, especially when you're up inside the city. They're not heavy, so they're not designed for that sort of engagement. But he at least kept the 64 distracted long enough to where he couldn't interfere with the rest of the battle. And so now, right now, it's just a matter of cleaning up and finding where he went.
Well, especially driving a French tank is very much a good motto for them, as speed is life. And unfortunately for Fire Blaster, that city is not a good place to maintain that speed.
Yeah. Jarhead himself here had a great match. Came away with 5 kills. 40,000 credits if he had premium. Most likely he didn't, so it was only 28. But still, it was a really good payout. And the team did great together. Now here we are joining Shadowhawk in his KV2 up on the Serene Coast. And as opposed to the previous KV2 video, most, if not all, of the shots here you're going to see are from a distance, which is typically not the way a KV2 plays. I mean, he makes a couple of these a little closer, but that's because they were getting flanked. But, he played it as a more distant sniping tank and totally caught these guys off guard.
And that's a beautiful thing, is when you can actually pull off those those distance shots that really make a difference, especially in such a high damaging tank like this one. But you really do have to have the patience in order to let that reticle zero in on that target.
Yeah, and watch, he's like, okay, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to finish off this Jagdtagger. He takes a shot there. He aims up in, and he's like, oh, and he just gets his shot off just before the Jagdtagger gets a shot off. They kill each other, but Shadowhawk's team wins. He gets first class, and now we move on, and we get to watch Crazy Bob in his E100 up on El Haloof.
Crazy Bob and his therapy tank. Gotta love this thing.
I mean, he takes, I don't know how many shots, but it's almost all into his tracks, which is pretty much half of what that tank is tracks. Or at least it seems that way when you're shooting at it.
And that's definitely a beautiful angle that he's using his tank on, is to lengthen any armor that the enemy is seeing to make it that much more bouncy and harder to penetrate.
And this is a beautiful shot right here. I mean, he just had a sliver of the commander's hatch, and he just puts his round right through it.
Enemy tank there trying to wiggle to avoid that shell. Not going to save him.
I mean, 902 damage right there. I mean, that's got to make anybody flinch.
Ready to fire. Target unlocked. They're knocked out.
He comes away with the first class badge and over 48,000 credits on a non-premium, but Crazy has a premium, so that was over 70,000. I mean, that's a lot of credits. Now here we are with AJ Steele and his M44 over on Redshire. You know, he gets a couple shots. I mean, the battle's over half done before he started getting most of these shots, but you know, he finally got the enemy to pause, and then he's looking for a shot here, trying to get a third shot in, and all of a sudden his minimap beeps right next to him, and he turns and he lucks out. That Su-100 only took his tracks. He's able to repair. He's already reloaded at this point, so you know, that was fortunate for him. Not fortunate for the Su-100. Never sent a TD without a turret against an Artie. He only gets one chance to get it right. Now we're joined by Black Star in his IS on Erlingberg.
Yeah, Black Star's been playing this tank for a while. And
yeah, it's a long grind, especially when you don't have premium.
But he's definitely very good at showing the strengths of the tank in this video here.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't come straight out of these buildings. He uses angles to come out so that he has, you know, his tracks mostly exposed. And then he shows that, you know, even an IS can snipe if it needs to. And then this T-29, I mean, he just foolishly gives the whole broadside to an IS. I mean, that's the biggest mistake you can make.
There's nothing more scary in a T-29 than coming up broadside to an IS. That's when you know you're in trouble.
Yes. And we wrap up this week with Deadborn 1 and his KV-2 on Ruinberg.
Kind of just to give you guys a kind of context of what's going on here, that M6 that I just shot is going to make a big appearance. So pay attention in the chat in your bottom left corner. You'll see where he gets a little grumpy with me after this kind of duel we have here.
Yeah, I mean, he takes shots. Yeah, he's taking 500 of your health, so you know you're at about 1/3 now. You've had to refocus up on this M4 because, well, it's an immediate threat.
And this is when I thought I was in huge trouble. I had no idea what was going to go on. I thought it was done for. And
you're at 6 hit points, and then you look out. That shot just completely ricocheted. He comes back around, and you just, boom, you nail him.
At this point, I'm thinking, okay, just get a reload, get one more shot off before I get killed, and uh-oh, M6 coming back to play. He comes out just far enough for me to get that broadside.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait for
And-
this reticle to zero.
And I don't know why he didn't shoot, because, I mean, an M6, he aims really fast. So, I mean, I don't know why he took that much time to pause on his shot, because, I mean, he should have had you, in all rights.
And then here you go. If you pay attention here, there he is. He got a little grumpy with me. As you can see, I couldn't help but razz this guy a little bit. Yeah. Honestly, you got to have a good humor playing World of Tanks, and this guy was just not in a good humor at all. And
then he's like, what? Not that. I killed you twice. We're like, twice? Hit me twice, maybe.
yeah, and you even get to see that his team even ends up going after him a bit, just giving him a little bit of flack for what he's saying. And
Yeah, actually, I think everybody got in on it. I mean, literally, like almost, I think all 29 of us got in on him.
And that's my personal opinion, is you just got to have a good humor when you're playing this, and it truly, at the end of the day, is a game. It's meant for your enjoyment, but competitiveness aside.
His whole team saying, what? What? You couldn't hit a KV2? What's wrong with you? And then right there, Deadborn proves, even a tank with 6 hit points is still deadly. So that wraps up this week's replays. As always, subscribe and leave your comments to vote for the best replays. And this month's replays, you have until October 31st to vote. So vote for your favorite one.